Hey everyone, I'm James and this is Covetous Imp Gaming, and tonight we're going to talk about different ways of creating your new character for Dungeons & Dragons 5th edition. Before we get started, please do that thing that all the internet robots want you to do. Like this video, leave us a comment, hit the subscribe button and the bell so you're alerted to our future content, and check us out over on Patreon and Facebook. Those links are down below. So the first two methods I want to talk about are the non-randomized methods, and that is point buy, where you start with all your stats are 8s, and you have 27 points to allocate into different stats. And you end up with your stats totaling somewhere between 69 and 72 points. The second method is the standard array method, where you take a 15, 14, 13, 12, 10, and 8, and distribute them amongst your 6 ability scores. With the standard array, you end up with a total of 72 points. And of the two non-random methods, standard array is my favorite. Moving on to the random method, you have, in my eyes, 3 different options. You have 3d6, where you are stuck with whatever you roll, 4d6 and drop the lowest, and use those remaining 3 dice to make an ability score. And my favorite from the random method is 8d6, drop the lowest 2, and use the remaining 6 dice to have 2 ability scores. If you have a player whose total number of stats using one of the random methods ending up being less than 72 or drastically less than 72, you might consider having them re-roll at least their lowest stat. I hope that answers some questions about character creation. We're going to get into some viewer questions.
Rick and Jessica ask, which stats are most important and what do you put where?
The importance of each stat is based directly on what type of character you're playing. If you're playing something that is strength-based, obviously strength is going to be very important to you. If you're playing something that's intelligence-based, the same will be true for your intelligence. That being said, if you're playing someone that's wearing heavy armor, dexterity is not going to be very important to you. If you're not trying to talk your way out of situations, the same will be true for charisma. And if you're not trying to figure out something arcana-wise or investigate, then you will not need intelligence as much.
Cliff wants to know, what class would you consider to be the most and least beginner friendly, and why?
I think that the easiest 2 classes to play for a beginner would be Fighter and Barbarian, mostly because they're very tanky and their only option in combat really is to just run in and swing at something. That being said, Barbarian's only real difficulty is, do I rage for this fight or do I save it for later? The harder classes for a beginner, I think, are any spellcasting classes, because I think spellcasters have a pretty harsh learning curve, and as you get higher level, there's more spell options. Which spell do I take? Which spell is not so good? Am I doing a lot of combat? Not a lot of combat? And then there's that old counterspell. And when you walk into a room, do I just throw this fireball out there, or do I maybe hold off and save counterspell for that oh no moment? And then beyond that, I think that Bard is one of those classes that really takes a special person to play, where you really need to be able to kind of wow the rest of your group with that bardic inspiration and those RP elements.
Sherry wants to know, how do spells work? How do you know which ones count as bonus actions?
How spells work. Spells are divided into full spells and cantrips. A cantrip you can cast as many times as you want with no real limitation other than it takes your action for the turn. A full spell, however, requires a spell slot to use, and you have a limited number of spell slots that is defined by your class in the player's handbook, and when you're out of spell slots, you are down to just using a cantrip. As far as knowing whether a spell is a bonus action or not, in the player's handbook and on your spell cards, you will see under cast time, it will be listed as the casting time is 1 bonus action, whereas a usual spell will say its casting time is 1 action or 1 minute or 10 minutes or an hour. If a spell has a cast time of 1 bonus action, you can still only cast 1 round per turn in combat, and you would have to use a cantrip for your full action or make a melee attack with your regular action.
Aaron wants to know if you can suggest the best way to build a character. Are backstories actually necessary?
I think that you should come to the table with an idea of what you want to play, and then put your stats in line with that type of character based on the stats that you're going to use. That being said, I think that knowing the locale that you're going to play in should play a little bit of a role in the character that you choose to play. For example, you don't want to be down in Avernus without access to a plentiful supply of human corpses and play a necromancer. Wink, wink. And ultimately, the spells that you pick and the things that you choose to do with your character are all 100% on you. You have to be happy with what your character's doing and what you're bringing to the table. Even if you choose to play a support character, those support characters are going to do more for the party out of combat and make out of combat life easier if that's what you choose to do. And I think everybody has their role to play, and you should just play what you want to play. I also think backstories are very important. It gives the DM a way to incorporate some part of your history and the place that your character is from into the narrative. Some part of your past getting brought into the present or the future. Not everybody can get away with the I'm Bruce Wayne, my parents are dead, they left me a ton of money, and now I'm like the righteous avenger. That being said, it is something you can pull off, but it doesn't give your DM much to work with. And even in Bruce Wayne's situation, he had Alfred to go home to. So there's still someone that you can link to your past and bring into your present. I'm going to put in the description below a list of questions that I use to help people formulate a backstory if they're struggling. So that's it for our viewer questions. We're now going to be giving away a copy of Van Richten's Guide to Ravenloft. Congratulations, Sherry. That's going to wrap it up for this week. Look for us next week when we cover Argynvost Holt in Curse of Strahd. Thanks for watching. We appreciate all the support, and we'll see you next week in Barovia.